to start the session. Good afternoon, everyone, to one and all present here. I'm Afrin Heather from Collaborative Advocacy of Sphere India organization. I warmly welcome everybody who has joined us for this very important session of Interfaith Humanitarian Alliance, the esteemed keynote speaker, the moderator, the participants, and our eminent set of panelists who come from different faith-based religious organizations of Telangana. I would like to briefly introduce Sphere India to the participants who are joining us for the first time. So Sphere India is a national coalition of humanitarian development and resilience actors in India. Sphere India facilitates multi-stakeholder coordination, knowledge and capacity sharing, and collaborative advocacy for enhancing accountability to the affected and at-risk population. I would also like to take you through this IFH initiative in India. So the world is dealing with emergencies and disasters frequently, preventing religion-based discrimination and following the values of peace and harmony is the need of the earth. As influential faith-based leaders have a responsibility to highlight the ways forward for the people to deal with the emergencies and associated behavioral issues. Faith leaders play a very critical role in spreading awareness about facts to help minimize the fear and anxiety among people. Such steps would not only ease the struggle of the survivors with the post-pandemic behavioral issues, but would also deal with the infodemic of information, misinformation, and rumor that is playing a crucial role in creating stigma and racism. Understanding the crisis from a humanitarian perspective is a collective responsibility. Faith-based leaders also have the critical role of spreading awareness on credible information to help minimize fear and anxiety and help to mitigate with disaster. Considering all of these things, especially during a crisis, we look to our leaders, especially faith leaders, to build preparedness and strengthening community resilience through credible information sharing and humanitarian action. Sphere India's Interfaith Humanitarian Alliance has been doing sessions for the past 1.5 years in different states with our faith leaders trying to discourse about COVID response and what work they have done, and also to spread messages on COVID appropriate behavior. And we are conducting this session in collaboration with UNICEF and World Vision India. So I would like to begin the session today with the keynote address by Mr. Ravindra Nath Reddy from UNICEF. Thanks, and over to you, sir.
Nay, Afrin, there is a confusion. It's Mr. Subba Reddy, sir, only. Please introduce Mr. Reddy, sir. He has joined.
Yeah, good afternoon, Afrin. Maybe you got my name, but it's anyway, it's all right. Afrin, are you there?
So your audio is very low. Maybe I think you should increase your volume.
Is it okay now?
Yes, sir. Yeah, much better.
Yeah. So, Afrin, shall I proceed?
Yes, sir, you may proceed. Afrin might be having an internet issue.
Yeah.
Please proceed, sir.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Subba Reddy. I work as a consultant with UNICEF Hyderabad Field Office. Basically, I'm a communication for development professional. First of all, I thank everyone on this panel who joined for this very interesting but important conversation on how faith and religious institutions and organizations, networks and leaders can contribute their might to the humanitarian response. So here actually I would like to bring some of the issues which all of might be knowing and we might be working, and some of us might have worked very even some across the globe, and some might have worked in different regions of the country, and you might have been in the this humanitarian response, because what I understand from faith-based organizations or religion or whatever the spirituality are. See, my understanding is very simple. The thing is that service to humanity in the name of God, whatever faith we follow, whatever religion we follow, and whatever customs, practices, whatever. But the motto is, and the ultimate aim is to serving the humanity in the name of God, so that the human race leads a peaceful and happy life wherever they are, irrespective of their whatever their roots are. So, in saying so, here the purpose of this conversation is that how we can strengthen the faith-based and it work further, because this conversation is happening. That means that, as far as I know, the thing is that as a person, that means that who read about history and all those things, the faith is there, the religious institutions are there. Indeed, still the governments, the modern governments or the democracies or whichever faith uh, uh, came into picture. Before that, it is the faith-based institutions, faith-based organizations, and the faith religious leaders who are actually contributed immensely to the civilization of the humanity, development, and whatever thing. And sometimes it might not have gone as per the plan, or but what I feel is that it is one of the oldest institutions that are available. Uh, that means that older than the governments, older than the NGOs, whatever we call in the modern world. So this is, in saying so, I would like to bring your attention to the COVID. The thing is that faith, the mostly the civil service organizations and the local network, whenever the disasters happen, that means that we pool our resources in whichever little way or the big way we can pull, and help the needy immediately, just to mitigate the immediate impact of the disaster. But when it comes to COVID, COVID is the biggest disaster that has hit every country, every nation, every person, every family, every individual equally. That overwhelmingly, that means that all the institutions who are there, including the government, could not respond appropriately to such a big challenge posed by COVID and coronavirus. So we mustered support from, that means that we means the government or UNICEF or from various stakeholders, and including the community-based and faith-based and spiritual organizations. So their contribution has been immensely helpful in mitigating the immediate impact of the corona on the people. It can be as small as providing a day's meal to providing livelihood opportunities, and also providing oxygen cylinders, and helping the people to reach to the hospitals, and even the thing is that cremating the people who are dead. That means that in some circumstances, even the family members and the relatives are not coming forward. But the service done by these faith-based organizations and the spiritual is immensely that means that lauded by everyone. So in this context, that means that we would like to know from you, the thing is that how best we can make them more their work more relevant for the future humanitarian response, or however little it might be. It can be a very localized cyclone to a very big disaster that has happened because of the any other situation like war. See, when I say, if you look at in the last, say, till the World War II, that means that we might not have seen any war per se, like World War II or World War II. But if you look at the newspapers and if you scan the history, it means that at some part of the globe, there is always a war is going on, and a lot of people are getting displaced, losing their livelihoods, children getting separated from their parents, and the elderly people suffering because their younger ones are participating in the war, either side of the war. So these kind of situations are we are seeing. That means that these kind of situations may not happen in a country like India, but definitely the thing is that any disasters, especially we are very prone to disasters. In the last meeting also I said, that when I was young, the cyclones are very predictable. We used to see cyclones. I am from South India. We used to see cyclones in around Dasra. That means that in the month of September, October, that was the season for cyclones. But if you see now, the thing is that there is cyclone once in a month. See, hitting very hardly different parts of the society. How we can, the faith-based organizations can respond in such situations. And second thing I would like to see flag here to all the leaders and the participants here is how we can enhance the management capacities of these faith-based organizations in terms of resource mobilization, in terms of managing their work, in terms of networking. Sometimes the thing is that we won't be able to do all the work. You might have resources, but you do not have the network to do that. How to network with other faith-based organizations if they are not in conflict with the core principles which you believe, and also get youth on board to work with you, or get other organizations and other networks to work with you. How best we can deploy our resources, and how these institutions and the leaders can play a bigger role. And here the thing is that the capacities, because you have two things in your that mean that in the side of you. One is, I consider these institutions are the biggest social assets of any society, because everyone, the thing is that we are aligned to some faith or some religion or some spiritual institution. There might be one or two people in 100 that mean that who say who are religious agnostic, but mostly 99% of the people we will be following something or other thing. When that network or that religious leader or that mutt, we will, for example, if you go to Karnataka, the mutts are very strong. I think, like, so we will definitely respond and get into the action. So that is the one thing which we will be discussing. And UNICEF would be interested to know how we can work in a systematic way with these faith-based organizations. And second thing is how we can capacitate these telling about the local resources. Mostly the thing is that most of the times we have the intent to do and network to do, and we have the manpower to do, but we do not have the resource to do it. So resources are always not available in our kitty, but resources are available with the society. For example, you need you are actually lending a support in an accident site, a big accident site. You wanted, say, blood. The thing is that how you mobilize, see, the donors like that. So I'm just throwing some of my ideas into that discussion. And so with your experience, if we can delve onto these kind of issues, I think this conversation will definitely give some ideas to us also to working with the faith-based organizations. And other thing is the mobilization of the resources. Mostly the institutions, faith-based religious institutions, they're highly dependent on donors. So unlike, say, NGOs and CSOs, which dependent on the project funds or, say, funds from UNICEF, funds from World Bank, funds from the government, but the faith-based organizations, they are very particular about how they mobilize their funds, and mostly they mobilize the funds from their followers, from the people who believe in the institutions, and people who have built the institutions, and people who volunteer for the institutions like that. So they would not see they may not be very keen to get the funds from a very structured sources, because their administrative and management systems are very different from an NGO or a CSO or whatever, a formal organization like that. In such situations, how best we can mobilize the resources. And second thing is, there are a lot of grassroots organizations like this. Mostly the thing is that at UNICEF or something, we look for highly visible big institutions, but there are very small institutions, who work in the district and sub-district levels, but they are not well connected with the top. If you can further identify which follow your religion or faith or whatever, that means that there is some similarity and some alignment to your principles and values. If we can also work with them as a bigger institutions. For example, I have worked during the COVID, I have worked with the Catholic Health Association of India, and I have worked with a network of Muslim minority religious institutions through Maulana National Urdu University. And I have a fair understanding of a network like Satya Sai Seva organization, which is a huge organization with a huge voluntary network. So these are different sizes of organizations, come with different mandates and different capacities. But the aim is, when a disaster strikes or when there is a humanitarian response is required, how locally, how they can respond and help the humanity to come out of the situation immediately. So these are my thoughts into this conversation. and hope, in addition to discussing about that, mean that how we can contribute to the decision, but a discussion can be held on how we can collaborate among ourselves so that we can maximize the impact, the work which we have been doing within our geography or within our sphere of influence. So this is with this, I once again thank everyone for being on this conversation. And this is a very important conversation, and I request all of you to actively participate and contribute, because see, the ideas, sometimes the ideas look very small, but when the time comes, they emerge as the biggest ideas. So contribute uh, your ideas into this, so that whenever the situation comes, and we can take a cue from those ideas and reach out to various stakeholders who have been participating in this series of conversations. Thank you, Afrin, for inviting me as a keynote speaker. Thank you very much. You have to unmute, Afrin.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, for sharing the experiences. You rightly stated about the World War II and devastating impacts, predictions of cyclones and other natural disasters, and you also relate up how the FBOs take actions and responses during catastrophic or disaster-like situations. You also highlighted about the impacts of COVID. Thanks again, sir. So now I would like to request Mr. Julian Joseph Emmanuel, sir. Mr. Julian Joseph, sir, is Manager of Faith and Development in World Vision India, and he look after the Faith and Development Program integration and initiatives in 5 different states of South Zone, like Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Kerala, and Karnataka for World Vision India. Over to you, Mr. Joseph, sir.
Hi, yeah. Good afternoon, friends. I'm very pleased to be here. I want to share briefly about the role of faith leaders in strengthening community response mechanism in future exigencies, and that's a thing they wanted me to share. And most of the things Subbareddy sir has covered. I will share a brief about what actually really worked. When these faith leaders from different faiths involved in any emergency or in any development, but how things changed than other things. World Vision has been working in development field for so many years, nearly 50, 60 years. We are working in the development field, and we've been assisting families, children's, with a lot of support, livelihood support, and many things. And we also empower them to face anything. That's how we do it. But over the years, we have seen, just because we are giving something to them, doesn't make change, doesn't bring any change. And finally, we found out there are some lot of mindsets, which is hindering them or stopping them, or some belief system which are hindering them, and or to develop anything. So the poverty or even whatever it is, the people react to certain circumstances like that because some deep-rooted belief system which are unchanged. So that is where the role of faith leaders is very, very important. So if we don't change that belief system, clearly they will keep on falling into that same trap, or they may not have a resilient community at all. So the role of faith leaders is very, very important in addressing these issues. So what we have done is we have did a lot of interfaith forums wherever we worked, and we empowered the faith leaders also to look into the community in a way that not only they have to. Usually the religious leaders are very, very busy people. Faith leaders are very busy people, and they know they think that only religious role is their main priority, and usually they don't go into the community, see the community issues as their issues, or address them. But there are some faith leaders who are very, very empowered mindset. They have an empowered worldview. They look the community in the eyes and lens of how God wants them to see, and they involve very well, and they address the issues very well. So we have seen these faith leaders engaging in these communities and making a lot of changes. A few examples I would say, yeah, let us come for let us talk about this COVID issue itself, where the first foremost respondents next to the medical professionals was the faith community. We have seen young individuals, faith leaders engaging, like we might have heard about mercy angels, Islamic brothers, who actually did the crematory things, even a lot of burial things for the other faiths, and they were involved because nobody was allowed and nobody was dared to daring to do it. And so these were the people who were actually coming forward to do that. And other groups like United Sikhs, and a lot of churches coming together, especially faith leaders were motivated to address the immediate needs, like how what Subbareddy sir already said. The other side of it, what we have seen is, I recently was part of an interfaith forum meeting where one faith leader, young faith leader, said, "Sir, do you know that it happened in actually one of the South Indian states?" And he said, "Do you know there were 72 marriages happened? No, sorry, 172 marriages happened in my village." I asked him, "Yeah, that's good, right? Marriages are happy things. It should happen, right?" I asked him. Then he said, "No, sir. 172 child marriages happened, in our villages." And I felt something very burdened about that. He said, and he was a Hindu faith leader. Then I asked them, "What do we do about it?" So they all came together, and they said, in our association, we want to discuss and come out with a decision that hereafter we won't, solemnize any child weddings, child marriages in our temples or in any other places. We won't go for it. We want to put up even a poster in our temples that child marriages won't be solemnized here. So these are the actions can really bring change in our community, which faith leaders can bring out. I'm just sharing just one example of that, and there are so many things which are where they can prove it. So faith leaders' role is very, very important, especially preparing our communities to look out any emergency in the future. Also in any development issue, the faith leaders' roles are very, very important. Also, especially I see these things are very, very are the important role of faith leaders. That is bringing, first of all, unity in the community. Unity in the community. That is peace in the community. Okay, talking about the brotherhood. Talking about seeing each other, how God sees us. That kind of a thing. Okay, so first thing faith leaders can bring value add to the communities or anything is this one, bringing peace in the community. Okay, the second one is actually network with other people. Many faith groups I've seen, faith leaders I've seen, they are very, very good, but they don't come in the common platform. I'm very happy to see a lot of faith leaders here coming to the common platform. At the local level, maybe in the village level or something like that, there is a kind of gap in that. So where they have to come together and address the situations. Imagine all the faith leaders are coming together and addressing it. That will bring a lot of value in the community. So they have to come together. The third one is actually share the resources, like Subbareddy said. A lot of resource lack, which one faith community may have, which the other may not have, and though they are sharing it, but usually they should pull in or something like that and do it. Especially during this vaccine promoted, when vaccine was promoted, there are a lot of groups didn't take vaccine at all. Okay, there are faith misconceptions in the group, which was actually dealt by these faith leaders, and then the vaccine thing was really picked up. Some of the communities where we work in World Vision, faith leaders are actively engaged in promoting the vaccine from all the faiths, like Muslim faith, Islamic faith, or Christian faith, or Hindu faith. Some leaders are actually are like ambassadors. They are promoting health. Not only that one, they are giving awareness for anything, for child protection, for vaccine, or something like that. So I see a major role faith leaders can play, during this circumstances. I see a lot of faith leaders here who already are very empowered. We could put in a lot of value. Thank you for my time. Over to you all. Afrin?
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Sir, can you please start moderating?
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so
Okay.
we have some questions. We will go into the panel sessions. So before going to the question, I would like to invite all the panelists for the panel. So I'll just introduce all of them one by one. So first panelist will be Sister B.K. Lavanya. She's a coordinator from Brahmakumari Center, Eluru. And she has done her MSc in psychology, MBA and PG diploma in counseling and spiritual health. She's the coordinator of Brahmakumari's organization for past 35 years since childhood. So Sister Lavanya is a spiritual counselor, a motivational speaker, conducting various programs at government, HRD, and police training centers, Nehru Yuva Kendra, central and district jails. Also in bar associations of district courts and corporate hospitals. She has delivered more than 500 lectures on power, mind power, stress management, positive thinking, and personality development. At talk shows in Peace of Mind TV channel, Yan Yogi TV, and other YouTube channels. Also, she guides many people towards leading spirituality, healthy, happy life, also and maintaining good relationships. She also participated in national and international conferences. We welcome you, sister, for this panel. And the second panelist will be Mr. Zahid Qadri. He is representing Islamic faith, and he is the founder member of the Help Hyderabad organization. And also he's also former special officer, state minority commissions, government of Telangana. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel.
Yeah. So
I'm not here as a faith leader.
Okay.
I volunteer with an NGO. My background is in disaster management. So I'm just here to bridge the gap between faith and delivery on the ground.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. And the third panelist will be Mrs. Sarah Matthews. She's a managing trustee of Sangal Women's Support Alliance, and it's a crisis center which provides support to survivors of violence and works towards prevention of violence against women. She received an award in November 2013 from the AP Minorities Commission for a contribution to women empowerment. Her work was recognized again as she received a Eastern Bhumika Award for Women's Empowerment in 2019. And she has been the board of YWCA Secunderabad and also served as a vice president in 2008 and 11. She has worked with HIV positive women and livelihood programs for women from low income groups. She was the president of Poetry Society Hyderabad, center and secretary. She was also center and is a secretary Friends of Golconda. Sarah, Mrs. Sarah is an educationalist and writer. She conducts teacher training and language improvement program. She is also an HOD in English and Center for British Teachers. Among the many books she wrote and edited, she also edited the book called Fall and Rise of Telangana by Gautam Pingle. She also wrote for Six Channel magazine as a guest writer and did a heritage column of APRDEDA. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Sorry if I misread your bio.
Actually, okay, again, just like Zahid said, I too am not a faith leader.
Okay.
I work with women and marginalized communities. So
yeah,
my perspective may be a little different.
Welcome you, ma'am. So our fourth panelist will be Mr. Harvinder Singh Pinky, Secretary of Guru Gobind Singh Foundation. He distributes free service like food, water, oxygen cylinders. We all know that Sikh community did a lot of work during the COVID response. So we welcome you, sir. Is he here? Afrin?
No, sir, he has not joined.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. So the final panelist will be Mr. James Regina Darby, Director for Center for Culture and Development. And he served as a research director at Human Development Research Center, St. Xavier's College, and Ahmedabad. He has worked as a country director for Afghan Research and Development Institute based in Kabul. He's also taught in government universities in Afghanistan. He also has served as executive director of Indian Social Institute, an institute for research, training, and action of socio-economic development and human rights in New Delhi. He's a life member of Indian Sociological Society. He is also a professional member of Indian Society for Applied Behavioral Science. He's been the Board of Studies of Central University, Gujarat. He's also part of the professional team from 2014 to facilitate credit courses on exploration of roles and identity and potential to performance for Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. He's a professional life member of Indian Sociological Society. He has written a number of articles and books on education, not-for-profit organization, democracy, gender, and inclusive development in context of India and Afghanistan. His academic studies include BA in Philosophy and Sociology, MSc from London School of Economics, and PhD in Sociology of Organization on NGOs, Culture and Effectiveness. We welcome you, sir. So the question for us, we will have two questions. We will be sharing from from each one of you. So the first question will be this one, where how how can we prepare better for effective humanitarian action post emergencies and disasters while fostering a positive outlook among the community? For example, like how faith leaders can provide mental or spiritual well-being support, positivity, inner strength, and counseling to those who are affected during emergencies. You can share it from your experiences, like how you've been doing, or how they can do it. From there. First of all, I would like to welcome Sister Lavanya to share on the thoughts. Thank you.
Om Shanti. Greetings of peace to one and all. First of all, on behalf of Brahma Kumaris, I would like to congratulate the efforts of the organizers in bringing different faiths into one platform through this webinar and encouraging people to work on this issue. So when we look at the world, we have been facing a bigger crisis at a global level. And we see so many people have got affected, and many of the people lost their near and dear ones. So every situation has a connection with our state of mind, whatever the situation may be, but every situation has a connection with our state of mind. There are people who believe that a situation has a direct impact on our state of mind. And they say that if something goes against to their wish and will, then they get disturbed, irritated, upset, or angry. These kind of people always blame situations for their feelings. So this is a victim mode of living life. And there are some people who are not at all bothered about the situations going on outside. They are the masters of their life. They always control their emotions, feelings. They choose their thoughts, they choose their feelings, they choose their emotions. So this is a living life like a master of our own thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Whatever may be the disaster or the crisis or the emergency, but our preparedness should come from within, that is, from the thought level. Even if we want to perform any action outside, first we need to create that thought in our mind. We should be prepared mentally and spiritually so that we can bring that thought into action and practically help and implement it. So we say any problem as paristiti. Paristiti means parastiti. Parastiti. It's not our swastiti. So when we stay calm, when we are stable mentally, when we are strong inside, powerful enough, then only in any disaster we can be ready to help others. So being a faith leader, our duty is to instill that instinct in everyone that we are capable of being calm, remain peaceful in any kind of situation. And we always tell people that our mind is independent of the situations. We should make this as an equation of our life. If we start blaming situations and people around us that this has happened because of this, because of the negligence of so and so people, because of them only we are like this, then we can't do anything and we can't help such kind of people also, because they always start complaining. But when one realizes that I have to remain in my original state of peace, whatever may be the situation outside, because situations may not be favorable all the time, but we have a power to remain calm. There is a crisis outside, but we can remain calm inside. That's the power we have. Everything is going wrong outside, but still we can think right inside. So that's the power we have. So we have to realize that we are the in charge, we are the masters of our life. So we should control our thoughts. We should create right positive thoughts and make our mind broad so that we can be prepared to help others and to act properly, aptly in that particular situation. So this is, we have to make it as a rule for our life that whatever may be the situation or the crisis outside, I will be mentally active. In Brahma Kumari's teachings, we listen these words every time. Achanak, ever ready. Means anything can happen at any time. Suddenly something may happen, but we must be mentally, physically prepared for it. Physically also, we should prepare. We have to maintain some things. For example, if we are facing any natural disasters, then further there is a lot of chance for us to prepare. In case of natural disasters, we can be preparing from a long time, preparing some things that can protect us from that natural disasters, from floods or from any kind of natural happenings. In Brahma Kumari's institution, we always instruct our followers to keep some ration groceries for 6 months and be prepared and use some necessary material which are very much useful in the time of emergency. So that type of physical preparedness should also be there. Because of this physical preparedness only, we were able to serve many people at the time of disasters. I remember our Brahma Kumari centers in Kutch. When the earthquake happened there, they were able to serve the entire area people, almost 600 to 700 people every day, because everything around was destroyed due to the earthquake. But our Brahmakumari center, it was not at all destroyed. It just got some cracks on the walls, and the people inside were safe, and they were able to sustain so many people for a long time, because they have already prepared physically some things. And this is about the physical preparedness, but mentally we should be prepared to face any kind of challenges in our life. If we are scared of, or if we fear for what is happening with us, and if we are anxious and we live in the fear and anxiety, then at that time we create an environment of weak negative vibrations, because whatever we are thinking, we are creating the environment. वृत्ति से वातावरण बनता है, वार्तालाप से वातावरण बनता है. So if we are creating the environment, then it is with our vritti. Vritti means our thoughts, our internal habit of thinking, the pattern of thinking that is creating the environment outside. It is always spreading vibrations outside. And whatever the conversations we are making, like, oh, what will happen now? This COVID has come, or what will happen to our children? What will happen to my job? How if I lose this? How if I do this? In this way, if we are continuously talking, this vartala will create the vatavaran, will create the environment. So let us be aware that our thoughts and our words at every step are creating the environment. So in this present context, we need to be very aware of our every single thought, because we are manifesting our thoughts in the form of actions outside. Our thoughts are continuously manifesting in the form of our behavior. Today we have so many kinds of treatments, like allopathy, homeopathy, naturopathy. But more of these pathies, we need empathy and sympathy. This is the present need. When we have empathy and sympathy, then we are ready to serve others. We are living in a high-tech world, but now high touch is needed. We have to touch the hearts of people, and we need to develop that kindness and compassion. That's why Brahma Kumaris, in the past 2 years, they have served at the global level in all the Brahma Kumaris centers. We have counseling centers. Apart from the physical aids, we have provided physical aids also in the form of food, and giving shelter to few people, and also meeting their practical needs. But apart from these, we have developed a counseling center, and we try to counsel people who are actually hit by the problem, and those who are suffering from the behavior of their family members. Because in COVID, what happened? All the people, they were staying together at home, because earlier what happened, people used to go to their workplace, and they used to meet very less time at, they used to spend very less time at home. But when all of them were together, many internal clashes, behavioral changes, and some small disasters at home, or we may call it as some small problems at home. Every day, people used to face some kind of disasters. Some people enjoyed that COVID period, and some, they were completely against it, because they were unable to adjust with the family members only. So these are some problems with which people are suffering at individual level, family level. On a broad level, if we look at the society, there are many helping hands who are coming forward to share, give, and serve the people. But internally, faith leaders have to focus more on the spiritual and mental well-being of people. That should not be neglected. When we sow the seeds of kindness and compassion in people at that mental level and spiritual level, then definitely from the roots, we are nurturing a tree. So from the roots, if we are nurturing a person, then definitely he will be responsible. He will take personal responsibility and also the responsibility of the society, and be ready to help others and be compassionate to others. So this all happens. Even behavioral changes also can be seen when internally we bring change from that person. So we are working in this field. We always try to encourage people to think positively. That is why in the COVID period, we have developed some positive affirmations. That positive affirmations really gave life to many people, because people were in fear. People were in fear that they might catch some infection from somebody and they will be affected to COVID. This is about the physical infections we are taking care of. We are maintaining physical distance. We are using sanitizers. We are protecting ourselves by staying at home. But what about the emotional infections that we are catching? Without going outside, even lying down on our bed, staying in amongst the four walls of our home, we are catching so many emotional infections in the form of fear and anxiety. So if we make people realize that they are a powerful soul, a peaceful soul, irrespective of the situation, irrespective of the problems outside, they can remain calm, peaceful. That is the power they have. When we make them realize this, then definitely each and every individual gets prepared, and he will be ready to take any kind of challenge. So this is what we are doing.
Thank you, sister. And yeah, thank you for sharing. And yeah, true, agree, sister. Like, no, I like the words which you said. No, we need sympathy and empathy more than allopathy and homeopathy and other things. Thank you, sister, for your sharing. And I would request all of the panelists to share a little briefly because we don't have time and we have a lot of questions. And this time, I would like to give it to Mrs. Zahid Qadri. And sir, can you share about help Hyderabad and during these emergencies, like what you all been doing, and how to prepare more for any emergency in future, better future. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Manuel. With your permission, everyone here is a senior in their own field with tremendous experience. So I don't want to talk too much, and I'm sure everybody has done more than their bit in COVID. So I don't want to dwell on the past.
Okay.
However, one or two quick points that I wanted to make, just for introduction's sake. Help Hyderabad is a 22-year-old NGO that's been based in Hyderabad. To come back to our discussion for today, two things that we noted. One was we're again watching for the last 4 days continuously, we're seeing a slow rise in COVID numbers. So I think all of us have forgotten about masks again, and COVID appropriate behavior needs to be reinforced. And oftentimes I have found, since this is something new to us, none of us are used to this, wearing masks, sanitizing our hands all of the time, maintaining social distancing. We have found that reinforcement of this behavior for people needs to come from various things. Government agencies do their bit, doctors do their bit. But I think the biggest impact would be if faith-based leaders reinforce this COVID-appropriate behavior and tell people how important it is to wear masks and sanitize their hands and not crowd at religious places or create any kind of these things, especially when COVID cases are slowly rising again. That is one point. And my second is, probably Dr. Dabi is better qualified, so I'm just raising the question and I'll leave the solutions to him. Over the past 2 years, we've noticed that the impact of mental health from the COVID pandemic, from people, from the lockdown and from the pandemic itself, in my opinion, seems to be as large as the physical impact that the pandemic and its entire associated processes have. At this time, like Sister Lavanya also mentioned, we've been seeing people facing a lot of mental disturbance. There've been depression, anxiety, aggressiveness stemming from an upset behavior. And this is probably something where faith leaders definitely need to step in. We don't have too much of a culture of mental health in India yet. Therefore, medical mental health practitioners, we still treat them not really as a disease like we would treat any other disease. And there is some amount of hesitancy in the public in dealing with these. So I think to bridge that gap, if interfaith or faith leaders come in and talk about the importance of bringing people either back to their faith or providing them the support that they need at this time, but definitely a very serious look at mental health at this time is required. And I'm sure Dr. Dabi, being a specialist on behavioral sciences, is better place to comment on this. I'm just raising the questions for you. The third and my final point is with regard to faith-based organizations. We have found that in India, in the entire subcontinent, we are very spiritual people. We have strong religious ties and strong religious beliefs. And this has led to a growth of faith-based infrastructure, even in the smallest of places where the government cannot reach or appropriate medical facilities are not available. There is some kind of faith-based physical brick and mortar infrastructure that is available. Now, this and in times of crisis needs to be put to use for the general public in general. This serves two advantages. One, of course, the service it provides to greater humanity. And in today's atmosphere, it builds back the stressed social fabric, whether it be Hindus reaching out to other communities, Muslims reaching out to whatever faith you come from. As long as you're reaching out beyond your faith, I think that's, again, something that needs to be stressed upon in today's environment. I won't take up more of your time. Back to you, Mr. Emmanuel, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Wonderful sharing. These questions. The question which you spoke about the mental health. From taking cue from that, I like to ask Dr. Dabi to share. More on you, sir. Like, can you take a cue on that and share it? Yeah.
So thank you, and grateful to the organizers for this, you want to call it workshop, seminar, whatever it is. And I'm glad to share my bit. I'm more of an academician than, though I happen to be a Jesuit. Those of you are familiar with Jesuits, those who are engaged in most of the Xavier colleges or Loyola institutions in India and abroad. So I belong to that clan. And I believe that religious leadership is one of the functions, and it is not the core of my being. My core of my being is being a human being. The rest is all the shirts and pants I wear. So that's number one. Number two, I'm coming to the point of, see, COVID is one in the context of today's, but there are a number of disasters which have taken place. And my experience, what I gather is from 2080 in Machu Dam, then in 2001 in Kutch, in 2002 political genocide in Gujarat, then in 2005 Kashmir, and number of them. Okay, so there is a list of that, and finally COVID. And in COVID, I worked mainly in the slums of Gujarat, main city called Surat, which is a migrant city, and kind of helping out both in terms of relief and rehabilitation. However, my thing is that faith-based organizations have come up to extend themselves for humanitarian help. And to me, that humanitarian help comes from the theology you hold, from the philosophy you hold. There are some religion may not promote because they think that by doing a humanitarian act, you might be preventing their moksha. So you must understand that. So theology and philosophy does help in people reaching out. So this is number one. And there are many other motives of why people reach out to the other people. Now, in my perspective, the basic thing of a religious leader, I would like to distinguish. One is the leaders or functionaries of churches and mosques and mandirs and mutts and all that. That is one function. They are functionaries of that mutt or churches or mosque. And to me, if you're calling a religious leader, a person who's a spiritual leader, then the role is different. Because a spiritual leader talks about spirituality, and spirituality does not belong to any religion. While a religious leader talks about the faith she or he expresses or believes in. So there is a distinction, and it does have impact on the kind of work you do. And it has happened in COVID as well, how people approach COVID as a illness among human beings and how it happened. But to me, one of the reasons is that India, I'm talking of Indian context, and therefore India has miserably failed in my view, and I might be viewed as blaming the other, but I take that blame. We have miserably failed in education, and we have miserably failed in health. So our forefathers and mothers might have tried to bring in some, but to understand that health and education begins from childhood. So what kind of education we give to our children and what kind of health awareness we give it to our. So let me ask, like, do we, as whichever faith you belong to, in your pulpit, in my pulpit or when I have a chance to address people, do I talk of menstruation to people and how women are treated? Do I talk about gender justice to my congregation? Do I talk about patriarchy? Do I talk? So we do not talk about this largely. I'm not saying, but largely we don't talk. We talk about the vertical relation, me and my God, me and my God. And I said, that's enough. What about the horizontality of this part of faith you believe in? Now, to me, this is one of the functions of the leaders, is to talk about the horizontal dimension. What does it mean to be human? You can have whichever faith you want, but what is it to be human? And therefore, can I reach out to other people in goodwill? So this is something which I think we must do. And other preparedness is that we as religious leaders, those of us who function, must stop doing blind faith healing. And don't increase people's blind faith. In COVID, many have done it. You say this many prayers and you say that many prayer and you will be healed. My goodness, I think people should have some sense that one thing is to, and I think Lavanya has mentioned pretty well, is that many of our thoughts and worries come from our belief system, our meaning system. So do we change? And that's why I call education is important, because education helps me to change, modify my belief system. So before I talk of my religion and my faith, I can think I'm a human being and the other person is human being. Doesn't matter whether black, blue, or white, or whatever it is. So this, to me, religious leaders must bring in this educational part from the very beginning, from pulpit, and the horizontal part, that this kind of disaster can strike anytime, because some of them are human-made and some of them are, you might call, natural. And we must be prepared if our mind is prepared. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dabi, and also Mr. Zahid. These are actually very challenging things. No, actually, our communities are really going through a lot, like you said, during these circumstances. Now, sometimes we feel that the resilience has come, but it's not resilient. People are not wearing masks and they are going out openly like that, and now they are crowding together and they are enjoying in the theaters or something like that. And we may think that resilience has come, but the mindset is still not yet changed, which we have to keep on stressing that that element that no, we have to be prepared, and we can't be like this. Some behaviors are not tolerated. That is very wonderful, and also challenging the faith leaders. Yeah, very true that many a times we seek for an opportunity, like how we can profess or something like that about our religion or something like that. More than that, we are called to do in action. We are called to be showing the love, rather preaching the love. Thank you, Dr. Dabi. And this time I would like to give it to Mrs. Sarah. Is she here?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Actually, over to you. I think somebody can pin her in this video. I couldn't see her. Afrin, can you pin her into this video?
Yes, sir. I think there is some technical issue.
Okay. Ma'am, actually,
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So the question would be, since you've been working with women and women a lot during this pandemic or any thing, what really women went through, or how did you all help, and how they should be prepared, for the future things. Okay, over to you, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. I'll make a faith statement before I start, and that is that no faith is complete without action. And I think that more or less everyone's scripture says that. And I think that's a very practical point of view, even as ordinary lay people or a good human being would think. The other thing is, like the last speaker talked about education, I think that's very important because we all go through a lot of conditioning in life, which could be sort of negative in many ways. And so a lot of unlearning is needed if we need to reach out to other people. And so it's like this. If you give a practical example, something happens, what is your first thought? That is your conditioning. And when you correct yourself, the second part, that is the person you become. You are breaking out of that conditioning. So in reaching out to people, very often, one of the biggest things that we have to do is unlearning a lot of things, being willing to learn a lot of things, and constantly learning a lot of things. That is very important in our interaction with people. During this pandemic, a lot of things did happen, especially the lockdowns. The first lockdown was extremely severe. And this was a chance for all governments all over the world to be totalitarian in the name of a medical crisis or an emergency or a pandemic. So majorly human rights were curbed, crushed in the name of preventing the spread of this pandemic. We had things going on in this city as well. And though I work for women, my NGO is for women, I'm also an activist, and anything that's concerning human rights does bother me. I hope I'm being clear to everyone. I'm being heard well enough?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
okay. Audible.
So the two aspects I look at, one is, of course, women, which I was specifically asked about. Women did go through a very rough time because all over the world, not just in India or Hyderabad, domestic violence shot up. If you look at France, they say there was a 32 to 36% increase in domestic violence. Now, if a so-called first world country comes up with a figure like that, I mean, statistics like that, I don't know what we would say about the rest of us, because we don't even have, these countries, at least something is recorded. They have, some way of recording these things, whereas here, a lot of things are unreported. So we really do not know much. We say it's been doubled. Even child abuse doubled during this period because there was no way to get away from from abusive relationships or from the abuser within the family. Most of this abuse happens within the family. So people were in small spaces. There were many practical problems that women faced. Like if you're living in a tiny space, you had to use common toilets. You couldn't use it. These are very practical things that we take for granted. But just imagine how unnerving it is if you have to go through this for days together. Then there were instances, of course, the workload on women increased a lot because all the family members were at home. So the domestic chores increased and most of the burden fell on women unfairly and young girls. If you look at it, if there's a girl and a boy in the house, our patriarchal conditioning is such that we expect the girl to do more of the household work, even serve her brothers if need be. And I've always said that this is what leads to this, the way we bring up our boys determines a lot of things in the future, how patriarchal the outlook is. A lot of our social evils, crimes like rape, etc., you can directly link it to this kind of thinking that most of that evolves over a period of time because of certain of our cultural practices. So there has been, like what I think Mr. Zahid Khadri talked about, the mental, problems that people, trauma that people went through, and definitely women and children went through a lot of it. Now, one thing that happened during these lockdowns is because the emphasis was all about preventing the spread of this, this horrible disease or pandemic. The law enforcement, everyone's sort of, focus was only on that. So if women contacted the police, they were told, manage kar lo. You just manage your own affairs. So there was no way that women or children facing abuse could contact anyone for help. There were no shelter homes if a woman wanted to run away or go somewhere. Counseling, everything came to an end. Now, these are areas that we really need to look at. We've already had 2 lockdowns, okay? God forbid there's another lockdown. Are we prepared for it? I don't think we are prepared for it. I mean, the second lockdown showed us that we were very badly prepared. We didn't have oxygen ready. People were dying, lack of oxygen. The second, the Delta wave was much worse than the first wave in India. So are we prepared? Okay, that is at the physical level. But what about these kind of issues? We tend to sort of push these aside because we think that they're not important. You know how many women went in for abortions by quacks because they could not get, all the hospitals, everyone was geared only towards controlling the pandemic. Where do they go then? They didn't want to bring another child into this world when they couldn't feed themselves. So many people lost their income. So these are so many issues that I don't know whether we have learned anything from this. So what can we as civil society, as human rights defenders or faith leaders, how can we work towards this? How can we keep these channels still open for women and children, that they have some place to turn to for counseling or help or rescue? We need to look at these areas because we need to be preemptive. If you're talking about faith being backed by action, action is not just reactive. It is proactive. It's preemptive, right? This is one aspect, and I will just touch on something else, so I was not asked about it. The human rights abuses that took place in the name of controlling the pandemic, especially in the first lockdown. I can speak at least from Hyderabad's point of view. Of course, it happened all over India, where the police used excessive force, much beyond their power. They were ruthlessly beating up migrant laborers, beating up, it's always the poor who are at the receiving end. They stopped pregnant women going for their checkups, even though they had a prescription and they were told that, they said, go back home, get off from the bike and walk. These kind of things, people, their legs were broken. So many things happened. I remember at that point in Hyderabad, I had gone and filed a case against the police commissioner and the DGP on these lines. Of course, though the Chief Justice did make some very strong remarks, eventually, of course, knowing our system and how the poor get scared when they question, when the police went and asked them, is it true that, because I gave cases of how somebody's leg was broken, somebody's nose was broken, and those kind of things. When the police went and asked them, they obviously got scared. They said, no, I just walked, I tripped, I fell down, I broke my leg. The court asked the police to corroborate this, because the police said, no, we took so-and-so to Osmania Hospital for medical treatment, but the police have never submitted any medical report. One person, a handicapped person, was thrashed mercilessly. That was also included in my petition. The police's justification was that he was a chronic violator of traffic regulations, and he has got 13 to 14 challans against him. As so that sort of justifies you beating up someone like that. But they failed to produce any of the challans in court. Now, this is Now, why am I bringing this up? Eventually, nothing happened of my case. Because, when my lawyer got back to me, I said, I don't have any more proof than what I've given you. So, though the court has told the police to do something about certain things have to be done, nothing has happened. The other thing that is very important, why I brought this up is, we are talking about counseling, shelter homes, the law enforcement still working for ordinary citizens, our judiciary still working for ordinary citizens. It is such a huge, big, actually, if you look at it, it's a Pandora's box. When you look about any of these kind of situations, there's so many things that we tend to overlook in an emergency or a disaster. And so I believe that we still need to address these areas because, NGOs may do work, but they have their own limitations at times. So it's also an overhaul of the whole system. And of course, I will end by saying that it also depends on every citizen of this country that we have to be aware of our rights. We have to stand for our rights and not let somebody trample us like this. Then people become a lot more careful about how they treat you. So I think if something like this is going to happen in the future, we really need to look how prepared are we on all these different parameters. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for the sharing. Yeah, true. I agree. Like, women, children, and many of them went through a lot during this pandemic lockdown. We have witnessed, crimes against women and also child marriages, increased in our communities. We have witnessed that, and it is very, bad to hear that. When young children are getting married and they are unable to, protect themselves from abuse or anything. So yeah, are we prepared enough for the future thing? We need to prepare more as a faith community or civil societies or no common man. We need to be more careful. It can be it can be any emergency. You have to be more prepared. Some of the answers from you all, covered even the second question, second or third question. This time I would like to give to Mr. Subba Reddy sir. Sir, actually, can you brief about how little more preparation is needed from your side from this communities? Yeah. What more preparation is needed?
Just can you elaborate on what exactly?
Yeah, we are talking on the preparedness. Yeah. Preparedness, like how we can more get prepared for any emergency situation. From your side, like any gaps you see in the communities that where they should focus on, apart from all the other panelists shared, anything more to be covered where you see that there is a gap?
Yeah, mostly the thing is that when the disasters happens, so people look towards two institutions. One is, of course, the government. And second thing is the voluntary organizations, whether it is CSOs or whatever. These are the two things they look for immediately for the help. That is one thing. If the governments and these institutions can work together for the immediate relief, that would be good. And second thing is, as I listen to more number of the panelists, see what happens after we address the immediate needs of the people. What I understand from the panelists is that the women and children, how they get affected in the immediately or in the near long term. Those things can be focused on, because what happens the disaster, when a disaster strikes, what happens is that these women and children are exposed to the world. That means that from the safe environments of their communities, societies, and houses. So they can actually work on that. But one thing I strongly believe as a person who continuously, though I don't belong to the government service, but working with the government remains a one important aspect. That means that wherever you stand in the disaster response or in the humanitarian response, because the government is obliged to say that is their duty to respond to the citizen needs, and we should work with them. And there is always certain issues where we may not, as Madam was saying, say the crumpling of the rights or something like that. Definitely, that is the one area that we can actually negotiate with the governments. But I think we should network among ourselves best and also network with the government. This is how I see for the immediate. But I'm not talking about the long term, how you work with. So if you look at, say, the loss of livelihoods or mental health issues, that is a different thing. But immediately, this is my response. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Actually, one question to all of you all. Actually, I witnessed a lot of young people or anybody losing job during this pandemic. Livelihood is lost actually. So due to that, there is an immense economic pressure in families or in communities wherever it is. They lost the job which they already have, and businesses are not picking up now. The post emergency, we have a situation of a lot of economic stress and any family. So individually you all can take 1 or 2 minutes to explain or give a thing like how we need to really look at it and solve it, or how we have to help each other to build our communities better, especially as faith communities or civil societies. You can answer by opening your mic one by one, and then we'll go in for the common question answer session from the from all the participants.
May I?
Yes, sir. Please.
Yeah. So again, less of a religion and more of maybe socio and cultural and religion together. To me, and since the context is faith-based organization and therefore institutions which are around place of worship, or institutions which are inspired by whatever faith people have. To me, number one is that, as number of us have mentioned, that the basic education, and I'm not talking of alphabetic education, I'm talking of education which is more of awareness. And therefore, can faith-based organization look at a kind of citizenship they are promoting? Are they promoting vote-based citizenship, or are they promoting right and responsibility-based citizenship? And those faithful who come there, are they vote-based faithful, or they are thinking of what are human rights and what are my duties as human being? Number one. Number two, loss of employment. You are very right. We just recently did 2 studies of migrants in South Gujarat, and huge number which is migrating and also unemployed. And to me, we cannot look at pandemic, COVID, and say, oh, this is a result of it. You see what has happened to India in the last few years. In 2 decades after the new economic policy, and in the last few years. Now, so everything to be blamed on COVID to me has been unfair, because the political structures, the social and economic structures do play on the health and education of citizenship. And to me, we NGOs and faith-based organizations can do any amount of good work, and it is good, and I encourage. We cannot do what the government are supposed to do. They are main responsible people and they must do it. They are not doing any charity. They are not doing any charity. If you look at the waste of the government, and we are saying there is no money for social security and for social for public spending, I don't believe that bluff. Okay, so we need to look at that. Now, unemployment. The studies I did of migrants, we took 4,000 family samples, and 30% of this youth, girls and boys, have been dropped schooling after 10th standard or 11th standard. They have dropped for various reasons. And one of the main reasons is that they need income in the family, because they have a small field which cannot produce much. So what happens? Simple advice, go to the schools, but for which money they will go to school? So what happens to government school, and what happens to quality education in government school? As a politician, I have connection with private schools. It is my promoted school, so I want private education. So to me, the faith-based organization and NGOs must teach their faithful to hold the government responsible for what they are constitutionally bound to do. Whether they come to your church or come to your mosque, to me, or mandir, to me, that's not very important. If they can begin to realize this is my right as a human being, and this is my responsibility to care about the other person, to care about the well-being of the other person, I think we as NGOs will achieve quite much in that line. And therefore, let's not think that disasters happen because what do you call, by accident. Some of them might happen, but good amount of disaster happen because we are not holding ourselves and our governments responsible for the socio-economic and political status and situation we are in, and we keep on promoting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, very true, sir. Like, we've seen a lot of I feel a lot of us are fighting against some systems which are actually not preventing access to services or schemes or something like that. Even in our communities, we see people couldn't, even the migrants. There is something called reverse migration which happened during the thing. They all came back from the original place of work back to their work, and they don't know what to do in their own villages or something like that. So they either engage in violence or in some other thing, or they don't have any access to any schemes or something like that because they don't have some access card like Aadhaar cards or no proper address, because migrants don't have this. So they are actually fighting against the system. One side, though, we all come together and empower them that they have to fight against these things. The other side, we have to also bring them opportunities, connect them with the opportunities so that they will get the right services from the government. Thank you, sir, for the highlight. And anybody else? Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. So as a continuation of what was just said, like I had also ended my bit by saying that citizens need to be aware of their rights and what is enshrined in the Constitution. As long as we are not, the government is going to take us for a ride. Now, the attitude of the government right now is we go to police stations or I work basically at the field level. I'm not any big shot who works overlooking many organizations. I work at a very basic field level. And we find that when we go to police stations or we go to the collectorate, whenever they start talking seriously about redressing a problem, the onus falls again on the NGO or the social worker who's approaching them. So like once I remember, they called us to the collectorate, they had a meeting and there was an issue about, they wanted a one-stop center for women to address different kinds of abuse that women face. And a very nice conversation was going on between the collector and two of us. There were two NGOs there in the room. And finally, at the end of it, he says, we need a counselor. So who's going to sponsor the counselor? Which one of you will pay the salary for the counselor? Why should we pay the salary for the counselor? You see, they have done this in every stage. They take away government schools. What are we doing? We are getting into that area and trying to provide. They don't provide us good healthcare. So there again, NGOs are stepping in. So finally, whatever the government is supposed to do, they take taxes from us and everyone pays taxes. Income tax is not the only tax in this country. We pay so many direct and indirect taxes. Everything that we use is taxed heavily. So everyone is a taxpayer in this country, but we don't realize that we are paying taxes and we don't hold them responsible for anything. And somehow it is like even today, and it's not just the government. If you look at the ordinary person, so many educated people, something happens. I have people actually pouncing on me or any other person. So what are you people doing? You all should take it up. It's like it is everyone's duty. The moment people stand up for their rights and they say, this is our duty, this is our duty to question the government. We do not become anti-national by questioning the government, then there is going to be a change. Otherwise, the government is going to keep building statues worth so many thousands of crores. And when there's a crisis, people are going to be starving and they're going to be beaten up when they're going hungry. And so I think this also, if we NGOs or we civil rights society people, I think our major huge duty is, more than anything else, creating this paradigm shift, making a change in the way people think. I'll give you one example before I stop. If you look at the floods of 2018, this is an example I very often quote in Kerala. What happened? You found that ministers, MLAs, bureaucrats, senior IAS officers, everyone rolled up their sleeves and got out in the dirt and did work. Because they knew if they don't do it, that populace, which is educated, is going to kick them out the next time. They don't give a damn. You're not their master. You are an elected representative. And if you're a bureaucrat, you're a government servant. They're very clear about that over there. So there was a difference in attitude. Doing this aerial survey and, waving out that non-existent people doesn't work there. So that is because of education, and people are so aware of their rights. And this is what we really need. And I think this is something that we all should really work towards.
Thank you, ma'am. Rightly pointed out. Even I've been thinking on the same thing. Many a times, civil societies or faith-based organization, we do parallel work to the government. We, if government doesn't do, we do that. If they don't give something, we give that. It is something like plugging our nose when we have a leaky nose. It doesn't really solve the problem inside. So the problem actually, there is inside which needs to be treated. Which we have to work we have to make the system work, which unfunctional system to work. So we need to, as a faith leaders, civil society organizations, and the appeal from the panelists is actually, that we have to, empower the communities to, to really, get the rights, from the government, whatever you are entitled to. They have to empower the community to do that. Others.
I would like to say something.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes, sister. Yeah.
See, I agree what the panelist has said. I really feel what they are saying from heart. That's true. I want to add a little for that. In case of youngsters who have lost jobs, here in Andhra Pradesh, I have seen, and you might have also be seeing the lady in Nellore, I think. She has lost her software job, but at that time, when the entire world was in lockdown, she started a vegetable selling business because her father was a vegetable seller, and she also, without any hesitation, without any a kind of self egoistic feelings, she started a vegetable selling business, and she became a celebrity within few days because everyone got inspired by her case, because so many youth lost their jobs at that time, but without thinking about her fortune and without wasting any of her time, she immediately started a small business at a small level, but she inspired a lot of people at that time. And also in our place also, one youngster, he lost his job, and I asked him, what you will do? So he said immediately, sister, I'm learning new courses so that as soon as the situation changes, I will get a new job, because this particular course has a high demand. So he was so positive. That means those people who are mentally strong and have a strong value-based education, then they are able to cope up with the situation. Even losing their jobs is not becoming a problem for them. I also want to give another practical incident. It was at the time of tsunami when Chennai was badly affected. In one of the village of Tamil Nadu, our Brahmakumari sisters were invited by the government to give counseling and also conduct meditation classes for the people who have been badly affected by the tsunami. So that was a camp for 1 week. And in that camp, everybody participated by force by the government. Even the people who are not at all interested, they were forced to sit and they were forced to listen to what is being said to get back into normal position and normal lifestyle. So there was one young boy who was sitting at the back, and he was not at all interested. Actually, he was not at all paying any interest in the words being said in that camp. But after the completion of that camp, at the end of the day, he shared his experience. And few people also said about him that he was not at all eating and not taking care of himself, because he is a youngster and he has lost his family members. That's why he is not at all ready to live. Actually, he wanted to die along with his family. He was 16, but when he shared his experience, he said, see, when this tsunami took away my parents, my sister, my brother, my grandfather, my grandmother, everybody, they were washed with the water. But at that time, I felt that I have to end my life, because why to live? For what? What is there for me to live? What is the purpose of my life? Like that, he was very badly affected by the situation. But when he was exposed to this knowledge of practicality, that we should live and we should have our own self-respect, what are we and what is our responsibility, what is the meaning of living, what is a human being, like this, all the concepts, when they were introduced to that person, he realized the fact, and finally he said, today I realize that I have to live, and I have to live for myself and for the world. So this is the change of attitude in that youngster.
Thank you, sister. Thank you for the inspiring story. And over to Zahid, sir. Yeah.
Mr. Emmanuel, I think there's one underlying thread that most speakers have taken up. That seems to be a shortfall in sovereign function. Your original question was the economic distress and what can civil society do about it.
Yeah.
So Lavanya has just mentioned a story of classical survivor's guilt syndrome. Be that as it may, or the lady who was selling vegetables, I understand all of these stories are extremely inspiring and certainly should be circulated. However, they do not take away from the fact that creating jobs and creating employability is a sovereign function of the government. And no matter how many solutions we come up with, how many innovative ways we come up with, there is a reason why we elect a sovereign government. And it is not possible for civil society or NGO organizations to completely bridge that gap. Yes, we can do small things like Sister Lavanya has said, like Sarah Matthews has said, there can be small solutions. We can ask people to buy hyper local. We can ask people to support their local community. We can ask people to try and move away from larger corporations towards smaller entrepreneurs. All of these things can be done, but these are just supporting functions. Essentially, it is a sovereign function to ensure that there is a functional economy that provides jobs to its people. So I think we've been, accountability also has been an underlying thread with regard to all of the speakers. And yes, we seem to be, the entire word accountability seems to be lost in translation now. So we definitely need to go back to making the government understand that they are there because we voted for them and we expect answers to our questions.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, very true that, this has been there for a long time, the unemployment and, the people are losing job for almost years, the situation been there. But the pandemic put little more stress on the communities where people lost job. And one side, there is a accountability issue, there are system gaps in the systems, which needs a larger society to come together, not only few NGOs coming together and doing it. Also we need all the citizens should be very, very responsible, taking decisions, or talking about their rights, in coming days, where our rules are very, very important. Thank you for highlighting that, sir. Yeah. So and so now we don't have much time for further more questions. We will have a few questions from the participants to the panelists. I request any participant who would like to ask questions to the panelists. Sticking to this only to this topic, not outside the topic. And also, let's focus on the issues, current issues. Yeah. Any participants? Or Afreen or Mrs. Mansi, we would like to have any questions with them, to the panelists.
No, sir.
Friends, you're given an opportunity to ask question. This time for the participants to ask question. Please, you can open your mic and talk. It looks like we all are talking. So I request you all to ask any questions to the panelists. Anybody? We have a very silent group. Friends, this time is open for you all to ask question. So anybody would like to ask question, the participants?
Post lunch is a sleepy time.
This is far beyond the post lunch, I guess.
Since I come from an educationist background,
Yeah.
I would say either we've done such a wow job of presenting our views, or else we've thoroughly bored them that they don't want to ask us anything more.
I think
Or we would have clarified everything also. We don't know.
Or we have internalized the learning, not to ask question, not to question. Keep the status quo.
Yeah.
I actually, in all seriousness, agree with what Dr. Dabi has said. I think we seem to have internalized it, not just internalized it, but taken it down to a molecular level, where we're probably moving more like sheep than asking questions, demanding answers.
Well, one way it's good to dive deep into the issues, really.
Actually,
Because
I would like to
right.
respond on the
Yes, sir,
livelihoods and employment. See,
please go ahead, sir. Yeah.
It's my personal observation. What I see is that why the people are not taking up the jobs even they are available is the low quality of employment, especially in the down available. That is the biggest problem, because just I reflect on my personal listing, my first job, that means that how I progressed, I think qualitatively my first 2-3 jobs are much better than what I'm holding. When I say qualitatively, the tenure, the social benefits, your ability to organize and unionize and express your employee rights and other things. When compared, I started working in 98, just on a lighter vein, I'm saying it. And second thing is that the most of the jobs are, the tenure is very poor and there is no social security around that job. And there is no, and the working hours and everything. That is the reason the youth are not willing to take up these jobs. Unless until I completely agree with this, that if the government may not create the job, but they have to create a social ecosystem and an economic security and social security and health security around the people, then people will be willing to go and work even the job is little harder. Because the government is not providing the, see, we used to have a rule, the thing is that even if you have a 10, 15 employees, you have to be EPFs. I'm not talking about, say, I don't know what is the economics of that, but definitely that is, I see from that angle. And second thing is that our conditioning that you are trained to do one job throughout your life, that must be changed, and there should be availability of skilling and reskilling, and the thing is that learning and unlearning happens. Unless until that happens, you won't be able to do it. So these are the two things. One is that there are jobs available, but they are not qualitatively good. And second thing is that the people are trained to do a one job during their education or graduation, and they are able to reorient or recalibrate themselves, and further they do not have the luxury of losing a job and getting themselves reinvested in learning a new skill. That is the biggest problem I see. Especially I come from the rural background and I see how much labor cost has gone up in the agriculture sector, and they could not evolve and the quality of employment is very, very poor. That much I can say. Just these are my observations around. And
Thank you,
just in
sir.
If I
and
may
the
add
COVID has
something
just
to,
fast tracked these changes. That's it.
if I may add something to you,
Yes.
what Subba Reddy has said, I think 90% of India's workforce is unorganized. So when we are talking of unemployment, are we talking only of the, say, 10%? 10% is exaggerated. It will be somewhere in 7, 8. But are we talking of that group, or we are talking of unorganized group? And therefore, what Mr. Reddy has said is very important. And again, that reflects on my own my personal orientation to development. What do I consider development? That I may not have food to eat, but I need a very good mobile. So because that is how development is promoted. So that is there is a huge issue. The second is that people have no job in agriculture, and they are moving to other sectors, constructions and fabrication and many other sectors. Is there enough room for that? The study shows that women over 20, 30 years have not skilled. So they were, even in construction sector, they were major, and they remain major after 30 years. A man might have become a mason or carpenter, but not a woman. Another, if you look at the household employment, many women now could manage their family with 3 jobs in 3 families. Now she may have to do 4 or 5 or even 10 household to maintain her family, because inflation has gone up, prices have gone up. So there are multiple issues along with unemployment, and to me, it's a massive task that many of us have to put our heads together and see what can we do. And of course, the government also has to listen to good economics and good sociologists to say, hey, are there ways or means, and find alternatives. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor. Actually, I met a youth last week, and he has completed his MSc Chemistry and B.Ed. He was a teacher in a school, and during the pandemic, the school couldn't manage, employing many people, so they fired him. Then I met him. I asked him, "What do you want to do?" He said, "I will do anything to survive." That is a situation, even for the educated people, like you said, unorganized. So for the people who are educated and who are really empowered, they are going through such a tough time. What would happen to the the unorganized group, especially after any emergency? Be it now the pandemic is in different phases. And now the unorganized group is, like you pointed out, they are the most affected people during this emergency. So what advice we are looking like, true, the government should do. How can we prepare our communities in case in future again there is going to be a lockdown or any emergency? How these people will can come up out of it? Yeah, true, they should have a right mindset. They should grab opportunity wherever they can. But how can they come up? How can they be really resilient? Any final comments from each one of you? Then we'll close this.
Let me just take from what you had started with, or Mr. Reddy has started. Can many of these faith-based organizations, number one is faith-based or NGOs, the other one is what I call worship-based organization, worship places. They can be mosque, church, or temples, or whatever it is. Can they have data, hard facts about the families they are associated with, or people who come, and therefore a detailed data of who is employed, how many children, education, in what way they can help out. So that data would be very helpful in terms of crisis in reaching out to people who are marginalized within community. So this is number one. Number two, another data or data bank about people who have resources and help. They could be doctors, they could be lawyers who have have resources and networking where these people, if approached, can help out. So this is yet another one. And third one is, there are within the government, there are people who are good citizens, I would call them. So are there a database of those within their own faithful community or in the civil society they know about, which will help them to steer through this crisis? So this is something which I have been kind of telling people to do. Thank you.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Doctor. Like where we have a pool of people who are talented and connecting to the people who have resources. No, that is very interesting. Where even civil societies, of course, private companies are doing it in a HR consultancy form, but we have to do it in with the social mind. Finding the real talent, in our communities, and also empower them during this emergency. Thank you. Any final response? Like what advice would you like to give? Any final advice so that we'll close it? Anybody?
I think that this whole thing should not just be an external thing coming from outside or from above. It also has to work from within the community.
Okay.
When we are talking about bringing about a change in mindset, that's going to take quite some time. It's not going to happen overnight.
Very true.
Any developed state of model that you look, it's taken years, decades for that to happen. And right now, unfortunately, in our country, I don't want to make this political, but the situation is such that people don't have time to think about these things or to work for their own betterment, because we are dragged into a lot of unnecessary things about religion and parochial feeling, and that's a ploy to keep us occupied so that we don't think towards we don't look at the more important issues at hand. So not only just like what Mr. Tavi said about getting data, I think also from within communities we need to see that you have your own local mahalla committee, something that they work towards their own peace, betterment. It has to start also from inside. It cannot be something that is imposed from the top, because then that will be resisted. So for it to have acceptance, definitely it has to start from within the people. And peace is the greatest thing that you need for any of these things to happen. As long as we're going through any kind of turmoil, we don't have time to address these issues, because we're just jumping from one thing to the other, including our civil society and NGOs. If you look at what's been happening, we're only responding. We're jumping from one crisis to the next crisis, to one controversy, from one controversy to another. So I also think that this has to be something that we help communities to start from within themselves.
Thank you, ma'am. That is a very nice thing. What I realized just is actually, above all the things, peace can bring resilience. Peace in the community, everybody coming together. That is the first preparedness we all should have. The community should have to face anything. United. If we are united, definitely we can achieve a lot of things. Thank you for stressing on that. So this time I would like to close it, and thank you all for all your sharings. It's been a wonderful panel. Yes, sister. Sorry. Over to you. Yes. Briefly.
Yes. See, we in Brahma Kumaris, we maintain an attendance register, and we have database of all the people who are connected with our institution. And whenever any relief action or any kind of disaster happens anywhere in any corner of the country, these people take out their personal time and they contribute. If there are doctors, they serve the society freely. They go to the particular place, they stay there in all types of conditions. So this kind of data we are maintaining in Brahma Kumari's organization. How many youth are there? How many children are following? How many doctors are there? How many engineers are there? So we have 20 sectors, means 20 wings. And under all those wings, we have separate data of people connected with our institution. And second thing, what Madam is saying, Sarah, Madam, that we need to maintain that peace, inner calm. So for that, at the time of disaster, at the time of crisis, we cannot maintain that because we need a regular practice. See, we cannot have war all the time, all throughout the year. We have war any one time within 1 year or 2 years. We face once any small war or any small type of fight at the borders. But regular training will be there for the people who have joined the military. Regular monitoring will be there. Regular checking will be there. In the same way, if at personal level, individual level, if we all commit with our own self and we practice peace, if we take out at least 15 minutes a day and practice silence and meditate for our own self and create positive vibrations, positive aura in our home, then that would definitely help others also to remain calm and to get rid of their anger and frustration and day-to-day life's disturbances. So try to make an action plan in such a way that I'm going to practice silence or meditation or spread peaceful vibrations daily, 15 minutes, so that I can contribute in the world peace, in maintaining the world's peace. So this is what we need to make a commitment with our own self.
Thank you, sister. One thing I learned actually from all of you is actually we should not only love God, we should also love our neighbor. That I learned. And another one is actually we should start with inner peace, like peace within ourselves, so that we can share our peace with others also. We should live together. See other person also created by God. They are also like us. Created we different religions share about different things about creation. God created everyone. So thank you so much for all of your sharings, and thank you for you've been a wonderful panelist. And this time I would like to hand over this time to Mrs. Mansi or Afreen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Mr. Julian Joseph, sir. And thanks all of you for a very wonderful and insightful session. It is such an honor for me to get the opportunity to thank you all dignitaries. On behalf of this fair India, I would like to extend my gratitude and special thanks to our esteemed and honorable keynote speaker, Mr. Subba Reddy sir from UNICEF, and our moderator, Mr. Julian Joseph Emmanuel sir from World Vision India. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to all the panelists of the webinar of their presence and contribution from the different religious background. Ms. Brahmakumari Lavanya, coordinator of Brahmakumari Center at Eluru. Mr. Zahid Khadri sir, founder of Health Hyderabad. Ms. Sara Matthew, ma'am, managing trustee at Sankalp Women Support Alliance. Mr. James Regina Dabi, Director of Center for Culture and Development, for participating in the event with enrichful and amazing discussions with a lot of clear and solid understanding shared among us, and to make this event a memorable one. I would also thank my colleagues at Spare India, as well as to UNICEF India and World Vision India. Finally, I would like to thank all of you present here for making the time to be with us today and helping us to make this event a grand success. We hope to see all of you in our future sessions as well. Thanks again, one and all.
Thank you so much, Afreen. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Namaste.
Yes, Shukriya, bye.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone,
ma'am.
for the time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.